Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to, I think, I'm going to call it our first annual CERSI Scientific Symposium to complement our CERSI Summit that occurred yesterday. So I'm very excited about this symposium, and the reason I'm excited about this is that, we have a great day. We're all here. We have a great day. All of you have come every year, but then we don't get to drill down the way I like to in the science. And the science the science and the research that's taking place in the different CERSIs is very exciting, and I think we'll see that today when we go through the agenda. So I want to congratulate all the CERSIs for their successful renewal or start of a CERSI for the next 5 years. And I know that it's Tina's dream. She talks about it a lot, and it's also mine, is that we start to do more and more together as a network. So getting us together here in this network atmosphere and talking science, I think, and talking research is a great step to creating the ambiance that we want of a network. I think that's it. And I want to, where is the UNC Duke group? Are you guys somewhere? Yay, so welcome to that. Yeah, very nice to have you here. Yeah, very nice to have you here. So, all right, this just shows all of us here, so it's nice to have added UNC Duke. And I know you guys are going to have other universities, right, involved, so it won't just be you. That's why we're supposed to call you Triangle. Two more universities. At least, that's fabulous. So are they yet added? They're not yet added.
Well, they're technically part of our consortium.
Okay, I need to put them up there, but okay, so that's great. That brings more people in to do these collaborative research. So for those of you who are not familiar with the CERSI, the whole purpose of the CERSI network is to conduct research in regulatory science in all aspects of FDA-regulated products, interacting with all the different offices and centers at CERSI. And we have, I don't know, between all of us, we have a lot of different projects. And we're working, as Tina emphasized yesterday, in collaboration with FDA. And that's what makes it very fun. This is the team. And again, I really want to thank, Russ couldn't make it, by the way. I guess I should announce that. Russ was going to be here, but his plane, I think he's still in Hawaii, or he's on a plane on his way back. So his plane got canceled. So he sent a note this morning that he couldn't be here, which is too bad because I know he was looking forward to drilling down on the science. I again want to thank Nathan. Where are you, Nathan? Nathan has again done the great organizing of everything. And I didn't yesterday thank the Stanford team, Amy et al., for all of you guys for really supporting all of us. So can we give you a big hand also? And I again want to thank Dev and Laura, who aren't here right now, and Lawrence also. So there are just a lot of people who are working together on our CERSI. So I want to thank you. And of course, the steering committee of the CERSI. I'd like to thank all of you, of the UCSF-Stanford CERSI. And I guess this is just telling me these are all the CERSIs with pictures of all of you, all of the PIs, I guess. So that's great. And today we have a great program. And I think I am going to turn it over to Lloyd to Dev to introduce Lloyd Miner, who is the Dean of the School of Medicine here. So this just says that we are having our inaugural event. So thank you. There we go. And I don't know if we
Thank you, Kathy. It's great to be here today. Russ has got stuck in Hawaii. He's being tortured with one more day in Hawaii. It's a terrible fate, but someone had, But anyway, it's a wonderful opportunity to introduce our Dean, Lloyd Miner. And Lloyd is a native of Little Rock, Arkansas. He went to Brown for undergrad and I believe medical school as well. And then he has connections with institutions that are represented by CERSI. He trained at Duke University. He did surgical training at Duke and went on to do a fellowship and trained in otolaryngology and ended up at Johns Hopkins, where he was chair of the Department of Otolaryngology and then became provost of the university. And we were fortunate enough to recruit Lloyd to Stanford in 2012. It's been 12 years, and he's done incredible things at our institution, numerous initiatives, precision health, many, many others. It's been a time of unbelievable growth in size and stature for our institution. So we're delighted to have Lloyd here. He's an incredibly committed person, and it's wonderful that he's going to come and make some opening remarks here for our day today. Thank you, Lloyd.
Well, thank you, Kuldev, and I want to thank you and Kathy and Russ for the amazing work you've done and are doing in organizing and leading the CERSI program. I remember the initial conversations about the launch of the program, and it's accomplished so many things, and we know the future it's going to accomplish even more. And in particular, one of the things that I'm so pleased it's accomplished is it's brought us at Stanford closer to our colleagues at UCSF. And we're really fortunate to have two amazing academic medical centers so close together here in Northern California. And this program is an example of the power and the impact that can come from collaborations. And also, I want to take a moment to thank the organizers of CERSI, the organizers of this event. So much time and effort goes into putting together something like yesterday and today. In particular, I want to thank Dr. Nathan Dang and Dr. Lawrence Lin for their work in leading the CERSI and making sure that the programs are moving forward, even during the periods when we're not actually having these conferences. And of course, I want to extend a huge thanks to our colleagues from Stanford Video who provide such outstanding service for us in making sure that people who can't be in this room today have access to what we're saying today and that it can be accessed in the future. It does take a village to put together a program like CERSI, and it takes a lot of people to put together events like this. I think many of you were at UCSF yesterday. You know, as hard as it is to believe, these conferences just keep getting better and better because they've always been outstanding. But having the present and past leaders of the FDA present and involved and engaged in talking about regulatory science, talking about what has gone on and is going on at the FDA, I think is so valuable to those of us who interact indirectly with the FDA all the time, but who don't have the benefit of hearing directly from those incredibly dedicated public servants who are working so hard to make sure that the FDA performs its regulatory function and also interacts with us so that we're all learning together. So for those of you who are visiting Stanford for the first time, welcome. Welcome to the campus. We hope that you have a chance today to look around and see some of the things that are going on and programs here at Stanford. We are today on the Science and Engineering Quad in the McKinsey room of the Huang building. And this building sits in the center of the Science and Engineering Quad. It also is connected to the main quad of the university and just across the street from the School of Medicine and our hospitals and our academic medical center. And I think the proximity of these entities within Stanford University really demonstrates one of the things that to me is most powerful about the university, in particular as it relates to life sciences and biomedicine. We have interactions, faculty interactions, deep interactions with the engineering school. We're literally across the street. My colleague Jennifer Whittam, who's the dean of the School of Engineering, recently surveyed the engineering faculty, and it's now, I believe, over a third of the faculty in the engineering school are doing research, technology development related to biomedicine and life sciences, with extensive collaborations, not just in our shared department of bioengineering, a shared department between the School of Medicine and the School of Engineering, but really in every department of the engineering school. And of course, that extends also to the School of Humanities and Sciences, where just in front of you on the other side of the quad, sits the biology department of the School of Humanities and Sciences, and then next to it, the chemistry department. So this proximity of academic programs and faculty plays a big role in terms of enabling collaborations to be started and then continue to move forward. We've also, within the School of Medicine and more broadly the university, tried to lean into and develop programs and support for areas that are directly related to regulatory science and making sure that the best innovations coming out of universities like Stanford and others can move forward to benefit the public. Some of the programs that are related to that goal include our Masters of Translational Science and Applied Medicine, or MTRAM program, that takes physicians, people who are not physicians, people who have varied backgrounds, and works with them in both a curriculum and also in a series of activities related to their individual interests to enable them to learn how innovations get from an academic institution and into the broader world, either through licensing and commercialization or partnerships. So MTRAM is one example of sort of that translational bridge. Another example is our Innovative Medicines Accelerator, which was founded in January of 2020. The purpose of the IMA is led by Professor Chetan Khosla, who's a professor of chemistry and chemical engineering here at Stanford. Chetan has walked the walk as well as talked the talk, and that he has a number of successful therapeutics that he's developed, beginning with fundamental discovery-based research in his lab that then have gone through the full process to registration. And the goal of the IMA really is to bring resources and support to our faculty who are doing discovery-driven research, but who see the opportunity or the application of those findings to developing new therapeutics for humans or diagnostics in humans. And within the IMA, we have divisions devoted to small molecules, protein therapeutics, nucleic acid therapeutics, cell and gene therapies, as well as an area of the IMA that's devoted to promoting studies of human biology. How do we better understand who we are as living organisms? You know, it's a sad fact that we've cured cancer thousands of fold over in mice, and we're starting to cure cancer more often in humans, but translating from rodent studies to humans has frequently been problematic. So how do we better understand human physiology, both with studies that go on in a phase 0 way, but also by developing more accurate and more engaged models of the human condition through organoids and various other technologies that are emerging and that we're trying to develop here and elsewhere. So in closing, I want to welcome the other CERSIs. It's been fun to learn about in reading and preparing for this event today, the work that you're doing at UNC Duke, the Research Triangle Park CERSI, also the Yale Mayo Clinic CERSI, and the University of Maryland CERSI and the Johns Hopkins CERSI. I see a lot of complementarity among the interests of the various CERSIs, and I know that today's conference is going to reveal things that we'll all learn from. And I hope this can be the first of many conferences that bring together the various CERSIs to talk about the exciting work that's going on. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Tina Morrison, who is the Director of the Office of Regulatory Science and Innovation at the FDA. Again, thank you very much for being here today, and Tina, welcome to the podium.
Okay, good morning, y'all, and thank you to our CERSI colleagues and folks who've traveled from across the country, literally, to be here to participate in this. What I like to do is to talk about the mission of the Office of Regulatory Science and Innovation, or we call ORSI. Our goal is thinking about creative collaborations that harness the best science. That's our vision, and so the CERSI program is one of many of our programs in ORSI. In the very short time that I have today, I've prepared an overview of ORSI in the Office of the Chief Scientist. I'm not going to go through all of these. These slides can be available to you. If you're on Figshare, all of my slides are available on Figshare, so any of this information is already available for you to download. What I want to do is to hone in a bit on the CERSI program, and specifically on a couple key factors. We have intramural programs. We support cross-agency scientific engagement and coordination in a number of different ways. And we have two very important extramural programs that allow us to either fund research directly through our research and development mechanism called the Broad Agency Announcement Program. This is where we have contracts where we can kind of dictate what the deliverables are for any particular scientific work. The CERSI program is extremely unique in that it is a cooperative agreement grant. So that means that we work together cooperatively, FDA alongside our academic partners. And I want to touch on a couple different topics. One, in looking at the agenda today and thinking, there's this advanced manufacturing topic. There's this patient-centered outcomes research work. Like, why are we putting together presentations in these categories? I want to showcase our goal of thinking about how we harness the CERSI network, not the power of each individual institution, but figuring out ways that each of those institutions can work together in ways that we haven't done before. And that's a really unique perspective that we're trying to take in ORSI. So I want to focus on that, and then I also want to focus on what we call outcomes of interest and why the PIs doing the research, what matters to FDA, and maybe you don't get a chance to think about what your impact means to us at a programmatic level. I know for sure at the project level where you work directly with the FDA SMEs, but what does that mean for us programmatically and influencing other work at FDA? So I'm going to quickly go through these slides. Again, these are available, but in the few minutes that I have, I really just want a couple key messages to leave with you. Number one, I want to emphasize the difference between regulatory science and sort of applied science and translational science. What we think about from FDA's perspective is harnessing the applied science and the translational science and thinking about ways we can use that scientific information to actually support the regulatory process, but not just for FDA. Most importantly, also for industry, so that industry and FDA are on the same page about what scientific methods or approaches or standards that we can use to be on the same page about how we evaluate the safety, efficacy, quality, performance of the products that we regulate at FDA. So the work that you're doing is not just about supporting FDA and its regulatory processes, but also about the industry that we work very closely with. So that's one thing I hope for you to take away today. Again, just bear with me while I flip through a few of these. And I wanted these here just for you all to have access to this information. All right, so I want to jump into this regulatory science framework. So when I think about how we communicate the needs of the agency, there's many different ways for us to do that. Okay, you guys, many of you who paid attention or were participating in the summit yesterday, you got to hear the commissioner's priorities. He mentioned misinformation, disinformation. He mentioned evidence generation. Those are really important public health topics, but as a scientist, what does that mean to me and how my work fits into that? Also, when I think about other ways that we can present scientific needs from the agency is we could look at each center, and each center could say, for CDRH, these are our priorities. For the drug center, these are our priorities. Okay, you could also look at it from a disease perspective or a demographic or patient population perspective, like pediatrics, rare diseases, oncology. How do we organize what's important to us from a scientific perspective when there's so many different ways to look at that? And so what we've tried to do in ORSI is to say, okay, we're in charge of trying to facilitate regulatory science for FDA. Regulatory science is at the foundation of all the work that we do at the agency. So how can we, as a very small office of just under 20 people, think about how we can organize our science priorities to make our programs work effectively? And so we came up with this regulatory science framework that allows us to look at scientific priorities across product areas, across a vast majority of populations, and allows us to say, okay, how can we bridge all of those things together? So for example, there are 3 priorities under the FDA mission. most of you here to protect and promote public health or to protect and advance public health, but there are three key parts to that mission. Number one is the modernizing development and evaluation of FDA-regulated products. So we are interested in the science that can help industry modernize how they develop products and how they can evaluate those products and how we can help evaluate those products as well. We're also interested in science that can allow us to strengthen the surveillance of those products once they're on the market, or products that are on the market. There are different regulatory pathways between foods and tobacco, and of course medical products. And then lastly, thinking about preparedness, public health preparedness, and not just the response for FDA, but how consumers can prepare themselves and how patients can prepare themselves. These three pillars are fundamental to the FDA mission, and they won't change regardless of who's in charge at the commissioner level. And some of the challenges that we've faced historically over the last 12 years, as our office is still a relatively new office at FDA, how we manage the shifting priorities of, say, the commissioner, but knowing that the fundamental science work that we're doing is still valuable to our everyday mission. So we have organized all of the science priorities under this new framework. And so under each of these areas, you will see that there are topics like artificial intelligence. How you apply artificial intelligence to devices or to drugs might be different, but we're focused on the science that can impact those product areas. We're interested in, advanced manufacturing, for example. We're interested in patient-reported outcomes and clinical outcome assessments. Those things are impactful regardless of the product area that we're evaluating. So in case you guys are wondering what this framework is about, that was the motivation for us to create that framework. That framework then is now fundamental to both our broad agency announcement program. We have restructured our call for research and development contracts under this new framework. And of course, importantly, one of the things that we've also done this year was to implement that into the new request for applications for the CERSI program. It was this year that you guys heard we had our renewal process. Actually, the call was last year. It took us about 6 months to complete that very extensive review of almost 30 institutions wanted to be part of the CERSI program. And we made some creative changes to the financial structuring of the CERSI program so that we could invite a new institution. But the focus of the CERSI program is really thinking about fundamentally how we leverage the scientific expertise of the academic institutions and bring together the FDA knowledge of what we sort of see as our scientific gaps that we can address. And so we look to the academic institutions to help fill those important scientific needs. So the work that you're doing under the CERSI program is extremely valuable to FDA, and it's very selective. When we think about how many dollars leave the agency for research as compared to an organization like NIH, our office alone through the CERSI program on average is about $15 million a year, which is actually not a lot of money if you think about the number of projects we have in the CERSI program, which is on the order of 100 to 200 projects throughout the course of a 5-year grant cycle. That's really small potatoes, and I understand that, but the work that you're doing is incredibly impactful to the agency and to public health. And that's where, this is the last point I want to leave you with, is the kind of a discussion of the outcomes of interest. Okay, that was my 9-minute timer. I have 1 minute to go. When you guys are thinking about responding to an FDA call for proposals for a particular area, what I want you to keep in mind is that we understand that as an academic institution, it's really important for you to think about how you can generate some new knowledge or use the knowledge that you have to apply that to catalyze an action. What does that mean? I'll share that on the next slide. The last piece, I think, when folks are doing their academic research, and I know this from personal experience, is like, ideally, I would really love it if FDA would adopt my method or my approach, or in some way my work can be influential into the regulatory process, right? So what does that look like? So I encourage you to go to our website if you haven't already. You can just Google outcomes of interest for CERSI program, and you will see this long list of outcomes of interest. And we organize them into these different categories in a way of thinking about how a project is formalized under the advancing regulatory science piece. You have knowledge of FDA scientific gaps or questions that you want to address, and you're going to pursue or utilize some knowledge that you already have. Importantly, yes, we want you to disseminate that knowledge, but that comes in a lot of different ways, not just scientific publications and presentations at scientific meetings, but there's the opportunity to actually disseminate that information directly to FDA in terms of training, in terms of presentation. So those are other opportunities. Catalyzing action, we're interested in thinking about how can we now take that knowledge that you have where you've highlighted some really important aspect of a regulatory process and you can create new partnerships. Use that as a new funding opportunity. I heard about a story this morning where a project led to getting an R01 grant. Like, that's super exciting and really important for us to think about how we can harness the work that you're doing. And then this last column, inform regulatory decision making. That's not on you guys. What's really important for you all to remember is that when it comes to regulatory decision-making, that's up to FDA. So we can take the knowledge that you've disseminated to us, and we can help translate that into guidance, into standards. We can work with organizations to create tools, medical device development tools or drug development tools, biomarker tools, for example. These are tools that both FDA and the industry can use, but it's important working alongside those FDA partnerships to realize those important outcomes for your project. So I leave you with that today, and if you have any questions, I'll be here all day, and I look forward to hearing about your work. And if you have other questions about the CERSI program or other ways you can be engaged, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much. And I think my last slide is the team, our small office in the Office of the Chief Scientist. Thank you so much.